Listen, Mildred, you gotta watch yourself in the clinches out there. I don't trust this referee. You don't want to be a waitress no more? Who do you think you are, huh?
Won't know me by my full name.
Sir, I want you to know I'm a big fan. What's it take for you to train me how to wrestle?
Who'd pay to see you?
Well, people with good taste. That too.
Ladies, it's a pleasure to meet you both. I loved the film last night. Welcome to our show. I think my first question goes out to you, Kailey. If you could tell me a little bit about this story and also Mildred Burke, because this was a really fascinating story that I had never heard about.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I can tell. I mean, I'm just judging based off of your background. It looks like you're more of like you're into the movies. You're not much of a wrestling guy. Is that right?
A little bit. Although I did grow up on Bruno Sammartino, so
Okay.
I do remember that.
Okay. Well, I was just gonna say, people that are huge wrestling fans, they don't even know about this story. So like that's the cool thing about it, is that everyone from all walks of life are all going to get to know Millie and her story at the same time. And it was super cool to be able to come in as the current NWA champion, who was holding the belt that we called the Burke, based off Mildred Burke, who was the first person to hold it in 1948. And to be able to come in and just be a part of this film and see how excited like the actresses, and again, they didn't know, I don't
anything.
Yeah, that they didn't know much about wrestling, and like the respect that they wanted to show to not just like Mildred and her story, but the wrestling industry as a whole. Because I mean, as you'll see, it started in carnivals, and it started from definitely the lowest of the low level. So yeah, it's so cool to now see this story coming to the big screen, a story that I'm sure, you know, her family, her descendants never thought would be told in this sort of way.
Woman ain't got no business in the ring with a man.
Woman ain't got no business. Where?
I think you and I should be partners.
Whole lot of opportunity out there for us.
Yeah, because she was a trailblazer. And my first question also to you, Damaris, is that you play Babs Wingo, who was one of the trailblazers in terms of an African-American woman being in a sport, being in an integrated sport at that point when the rest of the country really was kind of segregated. What was that like for you to take on that role, and what did you learn about it?
So that exactly what you just said is probably the biggest inspiration that I've had with Babs, right? I'm sure that the energy of the country at that time had a lot of, you can't do it. You're not allowed to. It's impossible. You'll never make it. Don't you know who you are, right? And so seeing that and taking that with me into the filming was fantastic. But that was literally my, I don't know, it's kind of like my it was like my fuel. It was that was the fuel that I was able to take into playing Babs. Yeah.
Oh, women can headline arenas. I know that we can.
I want to talk to you about putting two of my girls on your card.
My main event is heavyweights and their name.
Why would anyone want to limit the spectacle of competition based on gender?
Now, Kailey, you had mentioned just a moment ago being the NWA champion, world's women's champion. But when I saw you in this role, and I have to admit, I was vaguely familiar with you, but when I saw you in this role with this one, I thought you were as well an actress, but this was your first acting job, is it not?
Yes, it was at first like film. I had, you know, I grew up and did like some plays and stuff like that. But as far as like on film, it was my first acting role. And I was saying earlier, I was like, the first film scene that I ever did had Emily, Josh Lucas, Walton, and Gavin all in it. And I was like, and so I think I got spoiled.
We were very spoiled.
Yeah.
What's best for business?
Give the audience what they deserve.
New Jersey law is keeping her from fighting in the ring.
Together, we got to break walls down in this country.
Did I hear that right?
Fight for real, no script, shoot from the hip.
My first question also to you, Damaris, is that you play Babs Wingo, who was one of the trailblazers in terms of an African American woman being in a sport, being in an integrated sport at that point when the rest of the country really was kind of segregated. What was that like for you to take on that role, and what did you learn about it?
So that exactly what you just said is probably the biggest inspiration that I've had with Babs, right? I'm sure that the energy of the country at that time had a lot of you can't do it. You're not allowed to. It's impossible. You'll never make it. Don't you know who you are, right? And so seeing that and taking that with me into the filming was fantastic, but that was literally my, I don't know, it's kind of like my it was like my fuel. It was that was the fuel that I was able to take into playing Babs. Yeah.
Mr. McMahon, how can I get a guarantee that my ladies can wrestle in the state of New York?
Let's show them how we do it in the South.
Now, Kailey, you have some really intense scenes with the lead actress who plays Mildred Burke in this, Emily Bett Rickards. So what was it like, the two of you, preparing for those really intense, both at the beginning of the film roughly, and then the scene that closes it out at the end? Because I don't believe she had any wrestling experience, but it was really convincing.
Yeah, definitely. No, Emily trained super hard for this role, and the same as all of the girls. All of the girls took it serious and wanted to make sure to really show their best and not just go, oh, whatever. Like, because Emily, and she said that she has a stunt double, but the stunt double, Kelly, is, the belly to backs, the huge slams Kelly's in for. But as far as like the physicality and the intensity and like the close moments and certain things, that's all Emily, and Emily's doing all of that. And so she had to learn, like, how does a wrestler move even in transitional moments? Because like that's a huge thing about wrestling. People don't realize it's not, we can teach monkeys moves. It's about those in between moments. And so Emily was great at that.
1, 2.
You could get hurt in this sport. You have to be really physically trained for it, don't you?
Oh yeah. And I think what I tell everybody, I was like, everyone would respect wrestling so much more if they saw how a wrestling ring was put together, because everyone thinks it's some soft mattress trampoline. It's like, if you see how it's put together, it's steel, wood, and a little mat that it goes like that. And back in the day, it probably wasn't even that nice. So, but yeah, and I'll say, as I played Division I softball, I played sports my entire life at a very high level. Professional wrestling is the hardest thing I've ever done, because in sports, you train. And when it's time to play, you react. And that's it. You're reacting to all the training you've done. In wrestling, you're having to think about everything. You're having to think about, okay, how do I play to the fans? How do I sell this move where hopefully they didn't actually really hurt me, but I have to remember that they were supposed to have hurt me there. And I mean, you might have a 20-minute match and you're having to remember all this stuff. It is the most difficult thing that you could possibly, I mean, people come from the MMA world all the time, which is real fighting. It is real fighting, but I'm saying, because they think it's so much, I'm a real fighter. They come to professional wrestling and they admit, like, oh my gosh, this is the hardest thing I've ever done.
Well, you both have done an amazing job. I'll wrap up by saying, I understand that this film is produced or directed by the director of one of the Rocky film, the original one. So it has that sort of Rocky-esque feel to it. And I'm sure the audience is going to love it. You both did an amazing job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
All right, we got to tell people to go out and see this one. It is The Queen of the Ring, coming to a theater and a streaming service near you. Thank you, ladies.
Introducing the champion of the world, Mildred.